Welcome to Bones a Lot's YouTube video, in which we will be doing some old school level 1 content. And in this case, we will be doing Leaping Lizzy in the South Gustaberg area. Now, Leaping Lizzy's been on the server since day 1, since they introduced Notorious Monsters. Leaping Lizzy drops an item called Leaping Boots, which was later updated to be Bounding Boots, which is an exclusive version that cannot be sold to other players. And this stopped competition from coming out here to steal the drop for actual money and for profit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that Leaping Lizzy has a sister named Leaping Lizzy. Essentially, it's the same monster, but there are placeholders for the monster that are on the map right now. For instance, when we look at the map, you're going to see a few things. You're going to see groups of rock lizards. This is a rock lizard right here. Hello, rock lizard. How's it going? Okay, so this rock lizard has friends, right? As a matter of fact, this rock lizard has only 4 friends, and his friends are not friends with the other rock lizards. Let's put that in simpler terms. By looking at the wide scan, you see rock lizard times 5 at the top. Now this group of rock lizards right here, the placement of these rock lizards are all going to be on the east side of a pillar, which is around where I'm at, in the middle of the map, okay? Now on the east side of this pillar, there are 5 rock lizards, and the bottom one is Leaping Lizzy spawn. It's either the bottom one or the top one. I really want to make sure I'm 100% right on this before I start farming, but I'm almost 100% sure that it is the bottom one. Okay, now you're going to see, in addition to that, you're going to actually see another group of rock lizards. We go a page down on the wide scan. There are 5 rock lizards, 1 and his 4 homies. Now these guys are going to be on the west side of the pillar, always. They will always be on the west side. In addition to these 2 groups, there is a 3rd group of rock lizards. These rock lizards are always going to be near the fumaroles, and none of them are placeholders for anything. They are just 5 rock lizards, basically copy pasta of the other rock lizards, with the exception that the bottom one is not a placeholder. So to get started, we're going to put the last rock lizard on wide scan, and we're going to try to do this from memory and hope that it's not the first rock lizard that is the placeholder. So we're going to go find this rock lizard, and we're going to go rock his world. Huh? Huh? Rock his world? Yeah? You like that, don't you? You dirty girl. Okay. This is the rock lizard right here. And I'm going to come up to him and give him the big poke. Big poke of doom. You need to stop moving, rock lizard, so we can poke you now. Poke you. I got daggers. I'm gonna poke you. Ah, I poked you. Okay. Now, this rock lizard is the dead. So we move on now. So the next group of rock lizards. Okay. Dead. West group. Rock lizard number 5. I'm like 99% sure that it is the bottom one because I did farm this guy like the Dickens, which is another reason I know 100% that there's 2 placeholders. But for those of you who think that that's all hogwash, this video is for you. We're gonna kill rock lizard placeholder number 2. Okay, now at this point, we basically take a break. Go have some Cheetos, maybe some nachos, you know, go drive your car around the neighborhood, smoke your cigarette, have a cup of coffee, play with yourself, walk your dog, go back to your Skype call and harass your friends. There's a lot of things you could do with this time, but what you have essentially is a 5-minute window before the repop actually takes place. Now, there's one thing that's important to note. The repops in this zone are quote-unquote, which I don't believe this either, true lottery spawns, which means that A, they can spawn off of any placeholder respawn. So in the event that 5 minutes passes and the rock lizard were to respawn, the game will instead replace the rock lizard with the Leaping Lizzy. That will be true in a small instance. Basically, this lizard is not a true lottery pop. And the reason why I can say that is because if it was a true lottery pop without exception, then we could have 2 Leaping Lizzies, assuming that I am right and there are 2 placeholders, which we already know that I'm right on this. My point here is there can only ever be 1 Leaping Lizzy. See, Leaping Lizzy is much like the Highlander, okay? So we can only have 1 Leaping Lizzy. When Leaping Lizzy is up and the other placeholder dies and is trying to respawn, the game will check 2 things. 1, is Leaping Lizzy up? 2, can we spawn Leaping Lizzy? Okay? Basically, the first question answers the second one. If Leaping Lizzy dies, and the rock lizard is spawning after Leaping Lizzy's name disappears from the dead body on the ground, and Leaping Lizzy is no longer on wide scan, in that instance, if the other rock lizard's placeholder would respawn, it could instead be Leaping Lizzy. Right back to back. I've seen it a bunch of times, and we're going to try to do it here. And I also say that it's not lottery spawn because, unlike similar monsters, which I have noticed have been completely random in their spawn times, Leaping Lizzy does not spawn as a lottery pop every single time that you come out here. You're going to notice a few things. A, if the zone has not been touched in a while, you're going to notice that Leaping Lizzy spawns within not the first set of rock lizards, but the second. Matter of fact, what I'll show you here is chances are if the Leaping Lizzy has been defeated, let's say 6 hours ago, Leaping Lizzy might have been defeated. If that's the situation in this zone right now on this server, then when we see rock lizards, we're actually seeing the rock lizards that spawned when Leaping Lizzy was on cooldown. Now, if Leaping Lizzy was on cooldown, there's a time in the game that determines how long it needs to take before she can spawn again. You guys might think this is bullshit, but I've done Leaping Lizzy thousands of times. Well, it doesn't feel like thousands, but close to 1,000 times. And I know a lot more about this mob than a lot of players know. And one thing's for certain, and that is, if you've seen Leaping Lizzy X amount of hours ago, and you are comfortable in your thinking that Leaping Lizzy can spawn right now if you come out to the zone, what you'll notice is the rock lizards will be up when you kill them the first time. If they are the same rock lizards that spawned after the last Leaping Lizzy had died, then when those rock lizards die, they cannot spawn Leaping Lizzy on the next pop. They have to spawn the quote-unquote placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. That's how the game keeps the 2 placeholders organized. They only put 1 placeholder on the map. And then on the other side, like let's say the east camp has the placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. On the other side, the west camp, the placeholder hasn't spawned yet, okay? It's another rock lizard in the same slot, but it's not the one that can spawn Leaping Lizzy. That's how they seem to, in my opinion, as a programmer, that's how they organize the placeholders to make it to where Leaping Lizzy only spawns the 1 time. I could be wrong on this. Well, look at that, Leaping Lizzy at this camp. If we scroll down to the other camps, notice there are only 4 rock lizards here. Leaping Lizzy is up on this camp. So what's going to happen is this other camp down here, the 5th rock lizard will spawn. And I will prove that this rock lizard cannot be Leaping Lizzy, nor can it be a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy, because Leaping Lizzy is already on the map. Now this is convenient. If this were a lottery spawn, you guys, that would have been a rock lizard 99% of the time, and it would have been a Leaping Lizzy 1% of the time. But from my research, it's always going to be a Leaping Lizzy, because it's not a lottery NM. It's weird like that. Leaping Lizzy is a weird mob. So we're going to go ahead and kill her and take her off the map. While we do that, we're going to make sure that the rock lizard is up. Oh look, I found bounding boots. Congrats. Congrats to me. Just going to throw those away now. These used to be like 600,000 gil on my server when they were non-exclusive. Where are you, bounding boots? Okay, now notice a few things. Leaping Lizzy spawned right away when the placeholder died. That means that her cooldown window was no longer up, okay? Now that she has been defeated, she is on cooldown. She cannot spawn at this camp on the next wave, nor can the placeholder spawn at this camp on the next wave. As a matter of fact, the placeholder cannot spawn on the east side of that pillar until the Leaping Lizzy on the west side has died. I could be here for 12 hours farming rock lizards in this area right here. These 5 particular lizards, I could kill the last one, which is the placeholder. I could kill it over and over again, and I would never, ever see another Leaping Lizzy, ever, in my life until I saw maintenance happen and the server got shut down, in which case the placeholders would be reset. Okay? Now if we go to the other side, the west side, there should be 5 rock lizards up. There are only 4. Oh, we're looking at the wrong section. Okay, there's the 5th rock lizard. Now another thing is for certain, I'm pretty sure this rock lizard spawned while Leaping Lizzy was up, so in that case, when this rock lizard dies, it should not be the placeholder for Leaping Lizzy, which means the next rock lizard must be a rock lizard. Now there's a chance that I'm incorrect in that, since I didn't see the wide scan correctly right away. There's a chance that this is the placeholder for Leaping Lizzy on the west side. And if that's the case, then within 5 minutes we'll see a Leaping Lizzy spawn at this side. But one thing is for certain, no matter how many times I kill the east side, I won't see a Leaping Lizzy, because I've already killed that Leaping Lizzy. So the placeholder can't be in that location at all. It has to be on the west side. And we'll show that here a few times. As a matter of fact, for science, for those that might think that because I'm not farming the east side, that's why it's not spawning, I'll prove to you that it can't spawn on the east side by killing the rock lizard on the east side as well. It will not be a placeholder. It will never be a placeholder until the west side has died. It's always going to be east, west, east, west, east, west for the rock lizards and for the Leaping Lizzies in this zone. So for now, I guess since we killed the west side rock lizard, which is the 5th one on the list, on the west side of the pillar, we have to wait for that one to respawn before it can be a Leaping Lizzy. But again, because I've already killed the Leaping Lizzy, unless the Leaping Lizzy had died before the rock lizard spawned, that rock lizard cannot be the placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. Leaping Lizzy must, again, die and be removed from the map before a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy can spawn again. So there really isn't much lottery process here. It's pretty much like you come to the zone when it hasn't been farmed, you kill the placeholder, you wait 5 minutes. You kill the Leaping Lizzy. You go to the other side. You kill the placeholder, you wait 5 minutes, you kill the Leaping Lizzy. You leave for an hour or plus. I mean, I've waited for respawns for several hours. It's not a lot of fun. But there is a time that has passed in this zone against this NM. If a certain amount of time passes, it seems to be 100% pop chance on Leaping Lizzy. If no one has been here all day and Leaping Lizzy hasn't spawned, you kill the placeholder, Leaping Lizzy is going to spawn. So if it were a lottery, a true lottery NM, then that wouldn't be the case. But as we just saw, I killed Leaping Lizzy's placeholder, and I got a Leaping Lizzy right away. And it was actually a rock lizard that was idle in this zone for a long time. And so when it spawned, when that rock lizard spawned, the game had to have checked before it spawned to make sure that it couldn't be Leaping Lizzy, but it could be a Leaping Lizzy placeholder. And if that was the case, then it had to become a placeholder right away. Because that's the way that this game works. So, Tokoko is another NM they added to this game recently. Oh, I say recently, but years ago. Okay. Well, I only see the rock lizards up right now, so we'll just hang out. We should hang out on our favorite camping site. I'll show you guys, back in the day, what we used to do. Back when you only could have wide scan on Ranger and Beastmaster, players would come up here as Thief Ranger. They would hang out on this rock right here, where they couldn't get aggro. And they would just wait. Right on this rock. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm not gonna sub Ranger because wide scan is available for all jobs now. Okay, this is the East Camp's rock lizard. Now, a couple things are true for this rock lizard. The first thing that's true, obviously, is that it can't be the placeholder because the west side is up for a placeholder now. So the server is going to always make this rock lizard a normal rock lizard until the Leaping Lizzy dies on the west side. That's the first thing that's true. The second thing that's true is if you were to kill this rock lizard and wait for a repop, that repop can also not be a placeholder. It's just a normal rock lizard. So you could continue to farm this guy and you'll never see a Leaping Lizzy until the west side dies. And that is a fact. And you could test this all day if you want, and that will be the case. Now what's going to happen on the west side is one of two things. A, since the east side spawned Leaping Lizzy right away, that tells me that no one has spawned Leaping Lizzy in a while, which means that it's pretty much 100% pop chance on Leaping Lizzy, which makes it not a true lottery pop, as I said earlier. So what's going to happen is, A, the rock lizard respawns, and in that case will be a placeholder for a Leaping Lizzy because Leaping Lizzy's not up on the map, or B, it will be Leaping Lizzy. And if it is Leaping Lizzy, it is not the same Leaping Lizzy as the one that we just killed. It's going to be Leaping Lizzy on the west side, which is nothing to do with the Leaping Lizzy on the east side other than the fact that they share a NM slot which can only have one on the map at a time. And that's literally all they do. They share that one feature with each other. But it's not the same Leaping Lizzy. And if you hold that Leaping Lizzy all day, the other one can't spawn, obviously, because Leaping Lizzy is already on the map. So yes, it is the same Leaping Lizzy. No, it's not the same Leaping Lizzy, if that makes any sense. From a programmer standpoint, it's a different mob. Different mob ID, most likely. It's not going to spawn in the same area. It only spawns where the other rock lizard would normally spawn, so it's either a west Lizzy or an east Lizzy, but it's not both. Okay, now the west rock lizard has spawned, and because Leaping Lizzy's not on the map, this rock lizard is a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. So if I kill this rock lizard and I come back in 5 minutes, it's either going to be a rock lizard or a Leaping Lizzy, but it does have a chance of being a Leaping Lizzy. Whereas before, if it had spawned while Leaping Lizzy was alive, or dead and dying on the map, but still having the name listed over the mob before it disappeared, if the name was still visible, Leaping Lizzy name, then the rock lizard couldn't have been a placeholder. So now that we know for a fact that the rock lizard was spawned when Leaping Lizzy was not on the map, that means that the respawn for that rock lizard is going to be a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. You could think of that rock lizard that we just killed as a placeholder for a placeholder, which is to say that it can be on the server all day long, and when it dies, it can spawn a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy, but it can't spawn Leaping Lizzy. Okay? That's what I've noticed with this game. If you want to test this and be certain of it, what you'll have to do is you'll have to make sure that you kill the placeholder for Leaping Lizzy, the one that you think is going to be in the slot where Leaping Lizzy will spawn, which is the bottom of those 5 mobs. You're going to have to kill that one and Leaping Lizzy. Okay? And the other placeholder for Leaping Lizzy, I'm sorry. You're going to have to fix the game to where the rock lizard respawns, while Leaping Lizzy is alive. So you would have to leave Leaping Lizzy alive, and then you would have to respawn the rock lizard in that slot. When you do that, that rock lizard shares the same features as all the other rock lizards do, with the one exception that when it dies, it puts a rock lizard on 5-minute respawn, which has a tag attached to it that says, when I die, put Leaping Lizzy on a 5-minute respawn, essentially. What I'm trying to say is, that rock lizard, since it spawned while Leaping Lizzy was alive, it's not going to respawn a placeholder, and it will not ever be a placeholder. So if you waited, let's say Leaping Lizzy is still alive on the east side, and then the west side rock lizard respawns, what you'll notice is that rock lizard could be alive for 24 hours straight. When that rock lizard dies, that rock lizard will respawn a rock lizard 100% of the time. That is because that rock lizard doesn't share the NM tag, and that is because the NM was alive, or the placeholder was alive, I'm not sure which, because I don't see the code. That mob was alive when the placeholder was spawned. So that other quote-unquote placeholder is actually not a placeholder as you would think. But the one I just killed, however, I killed it when Leaping Lizzy was not alive, which means when it spawns, again, it will be a placeholder. Or it will be Leaping Lizzy, depending on when the original one spawned. Basically, it can only spawn a Leaping Lizzy if it had an NM tag on it when it was spawned. And it can only have an NM tag on it, attached to it, if it spawned outside of the NM's window. That's basically how this works. Go check some rock lizards. It's looking quite like there's no placeholder up on this side, which obviously, as we said before, it can't be a placeholder because I've already killed the east side Leaping Lizzy. So the fifth one that spawns will just be a mob. It will not be Leaping Lizzy. The west side might be Leaping Lizzy. That's a lot of rock lizards. What's going on? Oh, I'm seeing the ones from... Okay, yeah, I'm seeing the ones from the other camp. Okay, look. This is my point. West side, Leaping Lizzy. See? I killed a placeholder. We get a Leaping Lizzy. Okay? The right side can't spawn Leaping Lizzy. It has to spawn a rock lizard. So we're gonna go over here. Actually, before we kill Leaping Lizzy, let's go ahead and kill the placeholder again, I guess. This rock lizard that is a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy can't have the tag that I'm a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy attached to it, because you get that tag when you spawn if you're a monster in Final Fantasy XI. So this monster's just basically trying to fill the map with monsters, like the other monsters are. Because there can only be 5 rock lizards at this camp at any given time, that's going to be your 5th rock lizard. Now, it could be a placeholder if and only if Leaping Lizzy's not up, which it is. So it can't be a placeholder. And the respawn can only be a placeholder if when it spawns there's no Leaping Lizzy. And or there's no placeholder. I'm not sure which. This Leaping Lizzy I thought was over here in the corner, which is a common place for her to spawn, actually. Yep, right here. So this is Leaping Lizzy number 2. Again, as I said before, it's going to be your west Leaping Lizzy. Obviously, we did the same thing on both sides. We killed rock lizards, and the only one that spawned Leaping Lizzy was going to be on the opposite side, because we've already killed the Leaping Lizzy on the east side. Now this means 2 things. One, if you're thinking incorrectly, which look, I have another bounding boots. Congrats, Puzzlot. If you're thinking incorrectly, then you could say, oh, it's a true lottery pop, and it just happened to spawn on this side. And to which I would say, that has been the case for hundreds of Leaping Lizzys that I've killed. And if that is the situation, then it's not coincidence anymore, it's a fact. It's a fact that there are 2 Leaping Lizzys. It's not a random respawn, because if it were, then those hundreds of times I've farmed Leaping Lizzy, I would have seen back-to-back East Leaping Lizzys, and I would have seen back-to-back West Leaping Lizzys. But in this situation, what I'm trying to prove is that Leaping Lizzy spawns east-west, 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 and then after the east and west camps have been defeated, you have a cooldown time for her, which goes to say that if I see respawns in this area, they will be rock lizards. If I kill those rock lizards and see more respawns, they will be rock lizards. They don't even get a placeholder tag until X amount of minutes has passed, which I do believe the minimum is to be 30 minutes. And then it's a lottery pop-ish, but for the most part, it's kind of a timed pop. You can actually, almost to the minute, predict when Leaping Lizzy will spawn. A couple of other things that I'll like to note here, if you're actually farming this NM. This particular NM, even though people say it's a lottery pop, and I'll still go with that, again, if you come to the zone, chances are you're going to either see Leaping Lizzy after the first rock lizard dies or after the second rock lizard dies. Specifically one of those 2, depending on what happened in the zone before you got there. Okay? If that is the case, then you'll almost always 100% of the time see the Leaping Lizzy on the 3rd spawn, which would be not the first rock lizard, not the second rock lizard, but the 3rd rock lizard. And in this situation, we saw both of those instances occur. We saw Leaping Lizzy spawn on the east side after the first rock lizard was defeated. So the second rock lizard became a Leaping Lizzy right away. On the west side, we saw after the second rock lizard was defeated, we saw a Leaping Lizzy. Now that proves a few things. That proves that the Leaping Lizzies can't be up at the same time. That proves that it's not really a lottery pop. If it's consistently spawning in the same slot, the same respawn is going to be an NM. That means definitely not lottery pop. But that just happens to be the way Leaping Lizzy works here. So I guess the point here is Leaping Lizzy works in mysterious ways. I know a lot of those ways, like the back of my hand. And if I were to stay here for another half hour, I won't see Leaping Lizzy 100% of the time. There will be a rock lizard respawning here. This is the rock lizard that spawned after Leaping Lizzy was destroyed, so this cannot be a placeholder for Leaping Lizzy. That means that if I were to kill this rock lizard, wait, is this the rock lizard? Yeah, okay. So if I were to kill this rock lizard, in 5 minutes, a rock lizard would spawn. That rock lizard may or may not have an NM tag, placeholder tag associated with it. But it can't be Leaping Lizzy. Leaping Lizzy cannot spawn a Leaping Lizzy, basically is what I'm trying to say. And on the east side, because Leaping Lizzy on the west side has died, the east side is up for Leaping Lizzy spawn. But there's a cooldown that has to happen. That means that you can't see Leaping Lizzy 3 times in a row. You can only see Leaping Lizzy twice. That is because there are 2 Leaping Lizzies. Okay, and I can't seem to find the placeholder for this side to prove my point because it's probably still on cooldown. I'm not sure what's going on. Somebody killed the rock lizards here. That means there's someone in this zone, probably. Or I killed them by mistake. Nope, there's a Geo here. I don't know what that means, but our mission here is accomplished. Basically, we're trying to prove a few things about Leaping Lizzy, and we've proved those things. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video, and hopefully this video actually helps you if you try to farm this NM. And hopefully you can tell the difference between this NM and other true lottery spawn NMs. So thanks for watching, and I would say I'm happy that the Leaping Lizzy spawned back to back like I was hoping it would, but I knew it would. I absolutely 100% knew it would, so that just proves again that it's not a lottery spawn, and it works in mysterious ways of which I've documented thoroughly. So thanks for watching again, and be sure to watch my other videos.